what is up guys, it's me Silent Knight back with another video. This time I am doing the Amirukam dungeon, or whatever you wanna call it. I don't even know it anymore. Like these new paper and ink dungeons from the Pandala areas. Well, I don't know if you can call them new anymore, but for me it's the first time I have ever done these dungeons. That is because I am questing the spotted Dofus at the moment. So yeah, for the spotted Dofus, you obviously need to have done the Dorigami and Domakuro quest lines, and I have finished those. So right now I'm at the final few quests for the spotted Dofus, and I have to do both of these dungeons. So it's the King Amagami and Queen Amirukam. So yeah, weird names, but I'm just gonna call them paper and ink from now on. So for this dungeon, this is the ink dungeon, I'm gonna call it right now. The other one, paper, because that's what they represent basically. So the way these dungeons work is you have these monsters, and when you, like every monster in this dungeon and also in the other dungeon, have a HP threshold, which is basically I think 1% of their HP, and when you hit this threshold they become invulnerable and they spawn their opposite side from the other area. So basically you weaken a monster until they hit the threshold, it will spawn the opposite side of the other area, and then you have 2 turns to kill that opposite monster, and if you then kill it, the monster will die, and if you do not manage to kill it within 2 turns, then the original monster will be back full HP. So you have to repeat the whole process. So that's the general strategy of the regular monsters. And then you have the boss. Now the boss has multiple HP thresholds as well, 75%, 50%, 25%, and basically every time you hit a threshold, the boss will go invulnerable as well, and it will spawn the opposite boss. But this time the opposite side of the monster will actually become your ally. So as you see here, the boss from the paper dungeon actually became my ally, because I got the boss to 75% HP on turn 1. Now the good thing is the boss doesn't have that much resistance, actually negative air. So if you have like agility hitters, it's a lot easier to get the boss down to 75% HP on turn 1, which is really advised, because then you can basically ignore the boss for 5 turns and you get the boss from the opposite area as an ally. And this ally actually does insane damage. Now as you see in this dungeon, all the regular mobs have like 13k HP because they get a HP bonus. So therefore it's really needed, really necessary to use the ally boss from the opposite area very well, because if you don't use it to your advantage, this dungeon is impossible to win without it. Also you kinda have to make sure that it doesn't die, so that's why you occasionally see me shield it with my Feka. Now this ally you get does like 4, 5, sometimes even 6k damage. It can also shield you, and it can also AP buff you, which some spells are linear and some are diagonally. So you gotta make sure, be careful, because when you control this ally, you only have like 15 seconds to play its turn. So the turn goes by pretty quickly, so you have to think in advance, and you have to play very quickly, especially in the beginning when you try to learn the spells that you get. You don't really have time to read about it, so I really advise you to check the Dofuspourlessnoobs website to read about these spells, because once you're in the game you don't really have time to read those spells. So on turn 6 the boss goes back to normal, and that's the turn after a new wave will spawn. So at this point you most likely want to have killed at least 2 of the mobs of turn 1, wave 1 I mean, and have like one very weak, because like at this point, like honestly, if you want a good run you have to have already killed 3 of the mobs of the first wave, because when the boss turns back to normal on turn 6 you lose your ally, and it probably is gonna take you like 2 turns for your to get your ally back, and during these 2 turns you are going to hit the boss until it reaches his new HP threshold. And because the boss got healed back to full HP, you have to hit it like from full HP back to 50% for the second threshold. So you basically have to ignore all the mobs again for 2 turns. So it might get overwhelming if you don't kill them too quickly once you get your ally back. So that's why I really time my buffs and my punitive for my Kra. Also using a strong agility hitter like an Amirukam to kill the boss quickly again. So here I get back the ally. You also gotta make sure like the last character that hit the boss with direct damage will spawn the allied boss. So you gotta keep that in mind. So at this point I already killed off everyone from turn 1, so I at this point I knew it was a good run. I also tried to do the clean hands challenge actually. Sadly I did have to fail this in the end, because it was either me losing the fight and rerun it again, or fail the achievement. And because it was actually the first time I tried this dungeon and I needed this, I needed to complete it for the quest, I decided to just complete the dungeon instead, and I will run it again later sometime for the achievements. Because I honestly think in this dungeon both achievements aren't that hard, especially if you just do them in separate runs. I think clean hands is probably the easiest one, because you can kill enemies with either poisons like with Kra or even a Shram, but also if you kill the enemies with your allied boss that you get, it doesn't fail the challenge. And as for faint-hearted, it's basically the same thing, except you will not be tanking with a panda. So I'm either going to just play a little bit ranged with my panda, or might not even tank at all and just go with another damage dealer. And maybe an MP reduction Anu. So yeah, at this point just trying to kill enemies quickly. Before turn 12. On turn 12 the boss goes back to normal again, and you have to hit it until 25% HP. Also you gotta keep in mind, so like I said, the boss goes back to the normal state on turn 6, turn 12 and turn 18, so every 6 turns. Make sure that you throw the boss away far from you, especially in the opposite dungeon, because that boss actually hits a lot harder in this one. You cannot push the boss once it's invulnerable, but you can pick it up and throw it with the panda. So make sure to do that on the turn before she becomes vulnerable again. That way you will not take unnecessary damage. So yeah, as for the rest of the fight, just basically it's only 3 waves. I actually forgot to mention about that. Only 3 waves, so that's actually good. Just make sure you keep in mind those 2 turns when you kill those opposite monsters. And once the boss reaches the last threshold, if you then kill the boss, you will not spawn an ally anymore. So the last couple of monsters you have to kill yourself, so you have to do quite some damage. But if it's only like 2 or 3, it's pretty doable. Like after the boss dies, it's not really that hard anymore. So until then, make sure to make good use of the boss, the ally you get. So yeah, I don't really have much to tell more about this dungeon. It's actually not even that hard, especially if you don't do any achievements. If you got good range damage and a tank panda, it's pretty easy. So the next fight I'm gonna upload is the opposite dungeon, which is like a lot of people told me that one was actually harder, but I actually cheesed it quite easy. So yeah, I'm gonna upload that next, and I'm gonna play out this fight for you guys. So yeah, if you have any questions regarding this fight, let me know in the comments below. I will also put a link to the Dofuspourlessnoobs website where all the info about this fight is, and you can read about that over there as well. So if you like this type of content, you might want to consider subscribing to the channel. We are still growing the channel and I would really appreciate the support. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the fight and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching and take care. Bye.